There we go. So the teacher hiring landscape continues to transform, driven by new technologies, evolving candidate priorities, and changing workforce dynamics. So both job-seeking teachers and districts face challenges in navigating the terrain. Today, we'll explore how to navigate these changes effectively. So hi, I'm Krista Pfeiffer. I'm Teacher Marketing Manager at Nimble, and I'm joined by our founder and CEO, Lauren DeShilly. At Nimble, we know the importance of high quality teachers for student success, and we're committed to empowering both teachers and districts to find the right fit through hiring. We provide research-based technology to help students find amazing educators for every classroom and to help teachers find jobs they'll love. So we're really excited to talk with you today because we have partnered with the Tennessee Department of Education to provide the official educator job board for the state of Tennessee. So our goals for today are, one, to provide supports to district HR leaders to improve their recruitment strategies. We also aim to give educator preparation programs some ideas for how to best support their students in the job search process. And then we're going to share a demo of Nimble Connect, which is the new official state educator job board of Tennessee. So just a note, we will have content in this session both for EPP leaders and for district HR teams. So there will be a little something for everyone. And we'll example both the candidate and hiring angles of today's K-12 talent landscape. There's also time for questions throughout, so please just hang on to comments and we'll get to them as we have time. Right. So no new information here. We all know that teacher hiring today looks a lot different than it did even 10 years ago. You're all very familiar with things we're seeing now. We have teachers changing schools or districts more often, searching for greater satisfaction, and many more teachers are leaving the profession altogether. In many regions, there are now more teaching vacancies than there are teachers to fill them. That leads to increased competition among districts to hire quality teachers. Relatedly, hiring is happening early. There is a ton of research indicating that teachers hired earlier are more likely to be effective and more likely to stay than those hired later. Some districts are starting hiring as early as November or December. This means that districts waiting to start hiring until the spring are facing smaller pools of quality candidates. And then as we think about how demographics are shifting, today's teaching candidates generally prioritize mental health, and they're looking for work-life balance and manageable workloads from their jobs. That's a little different than what was highly prioritized in previous generations.
Anthony, you're gonna have to drop this off too because I don't get off till uniform.
No.
Sorry.
Oh, if you're not on mute, I hear somebody's voice. So if you could just check, please, to make sure that you're on mute, I appreciate that. Thanks. Last thing I want to talk about in our current trends is just that hiring is really happening online now. Some schools never even meet a candidate in person before hiring. And also we're seeing more of a presence of artificial intelligence. Some districts are using it to screen applicants, and candidates are using AI as well to support their job search, even to write resumes and cover letters. Want to ask you to take yourselves off mute now if there are any trends that you're seeing that I haven't mentioned yet in the teacher hiring landscape.
Krista, I think you're spot on. I mean, that's what I'm seeing primarily from my larger counties is they're definitely hiring with their with schools that have higher needs much earlier.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. All right, well, we're going to take a minute now to talk about how district HR teams can better support their teacher hiring. After that, we'll get to how teacher candidates can prepare. So, what can districts do? Well, first, make sure everything about your hiring process is as simple and easy as possible. The majority of teachers are doing their job searching and research online and often from their phones. So you should make sure that your team, that several of your team members are creating test applications on your applicant tracking system. Make sure that you know what the process and the experience is like so that you're able to convey that experience with your candidates. You should time how long it takes to complete your application. If it takes more than 20 minutes, you might want to make some changes. Consider removing questions that are not 100% necessary, or ask those questions later in the process. Applicants are really looking to move more quickly through the process, and many will start an application and abandon it if too much is asked of them just to get that application submitted. I also encourage you to work with your IT or comms departments just to make sure that all your online content is mobile friendly. Because as I said, lots of people are using their phones. And so you want to make sure that what you intend to have out there is able to be seen on a phone as well. We also want to make sure that you're eliminating unnecessary steps. So review your entire hiring process and identify if there's anything that can be changed or removed. So for example, in the application itself, if you're asking candidates to respond to essay questions in the application, evaluate their true value and consider if you can get that same information some other way, allowing you to reduce or even eliminate the presence of essay questions. In terms of interviewing, 2 is really the maximum that candidates are willing to go through. If you're able to get your process down to 1 interview, that's even better. But candidates get frustrated if they're required to interview 3 or 4 times for 1 position in the same workplace. So really try to get more people involved earlier so that you can reduce the number of interviews you're asking of your candidates. And then think about some of the other things you're asking of them. For example, if you're having them create or present a demo lesson, sometimes schools try to schedule that to allow it to happen with live students. That can really delay your process because there's so many scheduling things you need to work through. To make it go more quickly, see if you can just ask the candidate to present a version of their lesson to the hiring panel, and that way you can move through the process more efficiently. One other thing to talk about to support teacher hiring is the use of AI. So some districts are using that to screen candidates, which can be really helpful. If that's the case for you, I do recommend using caution. Just make sure that you're performing periodic audits to ensure that you're not accidentally eliminating candidates that you'd really want to keep. So just look through before you're finalizing any rejections. And a couple other ways that I think using AI can really help improve the efficiency of the districts is in writing job descriptions. So as I mentioned, just the value of the time of your candidates, when they're reading the job descriptions, you should be presenting to them the information they need and really nothing they don't need. So make sure that your job descriptions are crisp and succinct and include only content that's necessary. You can take your existing job descriptions, ask AI to review them, and ask, are there places where you see that I can reduce the verbiage here or make this shorter or more concise? And AI may be able to fix that, make it more tight for you. Another way I love to use AI is to create email templates. So we all know there are lots of messages that you're sending to multiple candidates at different points of the hiring process. Why not ask AI to help create these? Especially if they are going to be used multiple times. I'm going to actually take a look, go into ChatGPT right now to show how we can do this, how we can create multiple email templates. So I just use chatgpt.com online. It's one of my favorite AIs. And I would just put in here very simply, provide an email template that our HR department can send to a teacher candidate, inviting them to interview as an example. You can add things here like, I'd like the tone to be energetic and welcoming. You can really tailor that any way that you want. You can also ask AI, hey, please take a look at our website or these other publications that we've created and get a sense of the tone and the language we usually use. Incorporate that into our message. But keeping it a little bit generic right now, I'm just going to do this. And here it goes, providing an email template I can use. You'll see lots of places I need to fill in the candidate's name, the school name, but basically it's just giving a message that I can then use for my candidates and fill in the required information around time and date and those types of things. Whenever you're using AI, I really recommend highly against copying it and pasting it and using it without a clear review. Sometimes it makes mistakes. Other times it just doesn't sound the way you want it to sound, or it sounds artificial. So make sure that you're looking at it and that it feels the way you want it to feel. But you can use this to create templates for any of the communications that go out repeatedly. So throughout the entire interview process, if you're often asking people to submit documents that they missed in their application, when you are declining a candidate as well. And that's a good one to ask, have an empathetic tone as you're delivering the bad news. So in addition to removing barriers and shortening the process, another strategy I highly recommend to support district hiring is teaching principals how to pitch their school. So given the competitiveness of teacher hiring, candidates may need to be enticed to accept an offer. Now, there may not be much flexibility in the salary you can offer, but there are other things teachers value. And the number one person to let candidates know about those attributes is the school's principal. So make sure your principals understand that they're not just hiring, they're selling their school to potential teachers. Work with your principals to develop their pitch, showcasing all that their school has to offer. I mentioned the importance of work-life balance to teachers. Have principals inventory the ways they support this for their staff, perhaps through wellness sessions, or if there are teaching aids to support teachers, maybe you have duty-free lunches. What are the different ways that your school supports work-life balance for your teachers? Also, research shows that teachers are drawn to other perks as well and are actually 67% more likely to interview at schools that fit their preferences and emphasize favorable factors, such as low student to teacher ratios, improvement in a school's academic growth, and higher rates of experienced teachers on staff. So principals are the front line in convincing candidates to accept offers. You should prepare them to make that happen. So we're going to take a look at an example of how a principal can sell their school. The first thing the principal should do is identify their data. What are meaningful stats for their school? They should really be sure to include items we know matter to teachers, like the student-to-teacher ratios, student learning growth measures, and the work-life balance considerations. Then highlight the items that are very strong or unique to your school. Once you have these ideas fleshed out, you can draft a value proposition. I'll give you a minute to read that to yourself. Now, once the principal has the value proposition, they should internalize it and learn to share it at every interview to help candidates understand why that school is a great place to work. Pro tip, ChatGPT can also support in writing this for you. Let's take a look how that might play. So over here, I already input this information for ChatGPT. I'm asking, write a value proposition to attract teacher candidates to my school, include my school name, and then say, highlight these data points. And so I put in here the data points that we had highlighted before. Here you can also include a tone you're looking for, if there's certain language or your school's motto, other things that you want for it to include. So here we go. It gave me a catchphrase where innovation, growth, and balance meet. And it's highlighting some of the things that I said were worthy. Now, maybe this is too long. Maybe a principal wants it to be shorter, more succinct, more catchy. You can just simply ask ChatGPT to make a further iteration. Let's say we want to attract a very particular candidate, or we're looking to attract teachers from out of state. So then I can ask, well, please rewrite this value proposition to be more attractive to teachers coming from out of state. And now I'll get a slightly different version that's going to focus on some of the things about relocating here. Now, in a case like this, you definitely want to tell ChatGPT where your school is located and some of the assets of your geographical region. But point being here, you can really fine tune this to help your principals think about the different ways to attract teachers from different audiences. And once again, please, please, please don't just copy and paste and use what ChatGPT spits out for you. It's a helpful tool, but not a final solution. So be sure to review any content created by AI and edit it yourself to make it your own before using it. So coming back here, before we move on and talk about educator prep programs, I want to pause and see if anyone has some other ideas of ways to support HR professionals in teacher hiring.
I'll give a thought, Krista, just while others are thinking. One other thought would be to use ChatGPT to create like a question bank for the interview process. So you could talk about, what are the core values or skills to be successful in your particular district, and ask ChatGPT to come up with like a question bank of interview questions and even maybe scoring rubrics, which could then be shared as a support to principals and other hiring managers.
Love it. Thanks. Does anyone else have an ingenious or innovative solution they tried this year that they found successful? Okay, well, if you think of things, please feel free to share with us later. We're going to transition now and talk about how educator prep programs can help their students succeed in the current job market. So the first thing to keep in mind is to start early, as we've already discussed. Many districts are hiring for the 25-26 school year already now. Districts understand that credentials won't be issued until after students complete their programs, but schools they're able to make offers contingent on certification acquisition. So it really behooves teachers to get started now. They should have their resumes ready, and they can begin applying now. Once April hits, competition will be very high. And so that's going to make landing a job even harder. So it really is to teachers' advantage, new teachers' advantages to get started now while hiring is still ramping up. Teachers should also know what they're looking for in schools. So some preferences to consider, do you want an environment that's urban or suburban or rural? What size of school is comfortable for you? Consider different philosophies for schools. There's like a no excuses college prep model or a progressive model. There's different ways that schools incorporate their mission and vision. So have an idea of what is a general teaching philosophy that you're most comfortable with. And then, of course, think about location. How far from your house are you willing to commute to do your job every day? So once teachers are clear on what they're looking for, they can then refine how they conduct job searches. They should also draft a list of questions for the principal so that when they interview, they can better understand what to expect if they were to get a job at that school. The questions they ask might mirror what we discussed for the school's value proposition. So candidates might ask about work-life balance, about professional development opportunities, about the student to teacher ratios and other things that matter deeply to them. Teachers should keep in mind that not only is a school choosing them, but they are also choosing the school. Finally, preparation is key. Once the aspiring teacher is invited to interview, they really just have one chance to show their potential. So let's make sure they're preparing well. And once again, AI can help here. So the first thing I recommend is for the aspiring teacher to consider the stories they want to tell in the interview process. For example, why do they want to be a teacher? What's an achievement they're proud of? What's a challenge they've overcome? Do they have an important lesson they learned? I encourage teachers to create about 8 to 10 stories that they can refer to that help paint a picture of who they are. Our research with principals has found that many are very open to hiring inexperienced teachers, and the most critical things that they look for in a novice teacher are two things. First, growth mindset. So are you humble and willing to learn and grow your skills? And secondly, a passion for teaching. Do you have an authentic connection to the craft? So as your new teachers are considering their stories, they should be thinking about what excites and inspires them about teaching, and what are the ways in which they have grown up to this point, and how do they hope to continue growing professionally? So once they've written down some ideas of the stories from their own life they want to share, they should then structure these stories into a clear and concise format. So the STAR method is a tried and true format where you share for S, the situation that you faced, T being the task that you needed to complete, A, the actions you took, and R, the result. One thing to keep in mind is the result should always be positive. Even if it was a bad situation, the result could be what you learned from it or how you grew, something that puts a positive spin on the story that you were telling. So the teachers can then copy their notes from the stories they want to tell, ask AI to rewrite them in the STAR format, and then they can begin internalizing these stories. Now, notice I said internalize, not memorize. We don't want your candidates to sound mechanical in an interview, but knowing your stories well and being able to deliver them succinctly will make a really good impression. Authenticity is critical, and since these stories are their own, they should be able to present them authentically. Next, similar to what Lauren was saying earlier about the question banks, is use the internet to find common interview questions for teacher interviews. Go through each question then and think about what story could satisfy the question. For example, if the question is, tell me a time you made a mistake and how you handled it. Now, maybe you don't have a story that is exactly that, but perhaps one of your stories is about a challenge you overcame or a lesson you learned, and those stories originated from a mistake that could then make sense to answer the question. So the exercise of going through practice questions and thinking of what story you can tell in response will help your aspiring teachers know what to expect in an interview and to be prepared to respond to many different questions. And reviewing common interview questions may also prompt additional stories to identify and then format. Lastly, and most importantly, your teaching candidates should then practice responding aloud and preferably in front of a mirror or with a friend. You can ask ChatGPT or do an online search for a different list of interview questions, and then practice sharing stories using the STAR method to answer the questions. So take a question, think about your story, and the succinct way you have internalized how to respond. Building that muscle memory will come in handy when an unexpected question comes up during the real interview. So your aspiring teacher should remember what stories they want to tell and then use this practice to help build a meaningful response. So let's see this approach in action. Imagine in an interview, the principal asks this question. Tell me how you approach your professional development. Can you give an example of a skill or area of knowledge you've worked to improve in the past year? So here the candidate recalls the stories they've prepared, and they may not have a story specific to their professional development, but hey, maybe they realize, hey, my story about a challenge I overcame is about time management, which is a skill I work to develop. So with keeping the STAR format in mind, they're now able to present a response that answers the question and is a story they were prepared to share. Here's what ChatGPT gave me as a STAR format for my challenge overcome related to time management. So what I might say in the interview then is, when I was student teaching, I really struggled with time management. I would create these great lesson plans, but when I went to present them in class, it always took longer than I had prepared for. So this meant that I was not getting through everything, and my class was then falling behind. So I needed to find a way to manage my lesson time better so that I could get all of the material covered. I could be checking my students for understanding and be able to keep on track with where other teachers in my building were in their lesson deployment. So what I did was I worked with my mentor teacher first. We sat down together, she reviewed my lesson plans, pointed out areas where I was not doing a good job of budgeting my time, and really helped give me ideas about how I could better anticipate how much time activities would take. I also very tactically just started using a timer during my lessons. So if my plan was to spend 10 minutes in group discussion, I set a timer for 10 minutes and I made sure that our group discussion began and ended within that time frame. What happened was within a few weeks, I got much better and was consistently delivering lessons within the planned time. I was able to get the class caught up on the material that we had fallen behind for, and I just became a much more efficient teacher. So a few key takeaways for supporting novice teachers in approaching job interviews is they should share real, true stories from their own lives that paint a full picture of who they are. Now, using the STAR method will help keep their responses concise and easy for interviews to follow. Each story they share should end with a positive result, what they learned, how they will apply the experience in the future, or what they would have done differently if they could redo it, are all ways to get to a positive end. Know that principals are prepared to teach new teachers the skills they'll need to succeed, but principals know they can't teach passion, which is essential. So novice teachers want to convey their true, authentic passion for teaching through the interview process. Principals also know that novice teachers don't know everything yet, and they're okay with that, as long as the teacher is willing to learn. So teachers can demonstrate their growth mindset by sharing ways in which they learned from their mistakes, they implemented feedback, or sought out new resources. Also, being humble and acknowledging areas for growth demonstrate continuous learning. And lastly, while principals are making the hiring decisions, candidates decide whether or not to accept an offer. So new teachers should know what they're looking for in a school. They should do research and ask the principal questions about what matters to them. They are much more likely to be successful and to stay at a school if it is the right fit. Anything else participants can think of that they have tried to support their students in negotiating the current hiring landscape?
One of the things that's been interesting to teach, because our candidates have so many more job options right now, it's been fun to see, to let them know that they have some bargaining chips. You know, when we have a career fair, I mean, the employers will chase them around the room. And so, you know, it's fun to tell them that they don't just have to say yes to the first person that offers them a job, that they have some leverage, and you know, they should take some time to think about it, and not just jump into the first thing that comes along, because they do have some leverage now.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a notable change, right, from as the hiring landscape has evolved. But yeah, teachers knowing what they want will really help them make that decision. Thanks for that. Anybody else have something that they've supported their students in the job search process now?
My first professional development I do is actually with our career connections office, and they go over obviously resumes, approaches um, to the cover letters, and then I actually have district recruiters that come out and speak to them about the screening processes, about picking the right school. I will say that that's one that's gone considerably well, and I think it's helped discipline them on what resume should look like, because I think many times, and I'll even group myself into this. I think when I was in school, I didn't even know that kind of service existed. I didn't even know that office was a real thing, and till much later when I actually needed it. And so it's good. It's been good to connect them with that office and see professional resumes and what they should look like. It sets them up for success, even life after the classroom, if they choose to go on and do something else years later. So
That's a really great point. A well-crafted resume goes really far. And I know there can be a thought of just, oh, I'll just tell ChatGPT all the stuff I've done and have the computer format a resume for me. But it's going to look stale and artificial if you just do that. So you should really start with understanding how a resume should be structured and making sure that you have your own personal bend to it so that you stand out and don't just read like a computer generated list of previous experiences. Great. Well, I am putting here, we're going to get to our product demo in a minute, but want to welcome right now, if you have any questions, my email is here, so you are more than welcome to email me following the call. But for right now, anyone have any questions they want to ask about anything that we've talked about so far or how teacher hiring is going these days? All right, so take a note of my email, and I'm going to now turn it over to Lauren to take us through Nimble Connect.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Krista, for the presentation, and thanks all of you for listening and sharing. As Krista said, I'm Lauren. I'm the founder and CEO of Nimble, and we are the technology partner of the Tennessee Department of Education in creating the state's official teacher job board. So as some of you may have heard, we launched the new statewide teacher job board just last month in January. And I'm excited to share it with all of you today, both as a resource for those of you who may be representing districts, as well as those of you who are within an educator preparation program and who are able to share this as a resource with some of your rising educators who may be embarking on a job search in these coming months. So this is the statewide educator job board, and we'll be sharing the link to this as well as some other resources in the chat. But essentially, any of your students who are, or students or alumni who are seeking teaching jobs can come to this job board. And this is a comprehensive resource, which is going to show all of the teaching jobs that are available across the state of Tennessee. And one of the things that's really unique about this job board is that it does not require school district HR teams to post their jobs manually. The job board automatically basically scans the internet and pulls in any teaching job that has been posted on a district's job board anywhere across the state of Tennessee, and then aggregates them here and organizes them in a way that's really easy for teachers and rising teachers to sort through. So if I am a rising educator, I can say, I want to teach within 25 miles of Nashville, let's say, or you can put in your exact address and say exactly what you want your commute radius to be. And this is going to show me all of the schools and that have job openings that meet my criteria. So I can also specify what grade levels, what subjects I want to teach. I can filter down to individual districts. So it's a really user-friendly way for teachers across the state of Tennessee to find the full comprehensive list of job openings that may be a fit for them. There's a bunch of information here. So there's not only the job postings organized by school, but you can also find out information about the principal at the school, how far away the school is from you, the grades it serves. You can link to the district salary schedule, and you can actually see a more detailed listing of a more detailed job description for each of the job postings. And then the other great thing that teachers can do here is that they can use this as a networking tool. So if I click connect with principal, this is going to give me the opportunity to introduce myself to this principal and share over my resume so that they can let me know if they think I might be a fit for their school. So particularly for folks who are newer to the teaching profession, this is a great way to just make that connection and set yourself apart. And get in front of that principal. And as Krista was talking about earlier, with having them craft a little bit of like a thoughtful introduction about themselves that highlights their growth mindset, that highlights their kind of philosophy or their approach to teaching. That's a nice way to catch that principal's attention. So that is the way that candidates can use the job listings here. They can also create an educator profile. So they'll come in here, they'll fill in their contact information, they'll upload their resume, they'll provide information about their expected certifications. And we have this matching service, which is really beneficial to teacher job seekers. So what I can do as a teacher job seeker through the matching service is I can say, okay, these are my commute preferences. These are my preferred grades and subject areas. These are the things I'm certified to teach. And you can let this platform through Nimble actually do the work for you. So if you fill out this profile, we will actually put your resume in front of various schools that meet your criteria. And if the principals decide that they want to match with you, you'll receive an email introduction automatically to that principal in your inbox. So this is another great way for educators, rising educators, to just get more contacts with principals and kind of broaden the scope of schools that they may not have been able to connect with otherwise. And like I said, this is a comprehensive resource. Districts do not have to manually post on this job board. The jobs are automatically aggregated and updated multiple times a week. So we highly encourage you to share this. If you have students who are still looking for teaching jobs for next year, or if you have alums who are certified and who may be looking to get back into the classroom, this is a great resource to send their way. And we'll also provide some information in the chat if you would like to connect with Krista to have her do an overview of this platform with your students in an ed prep program, your seniors who are looking for their jobs. We are happy to spend some time with your students directly and to overview the platform for them. And the other thing that I just want to share, in case any of you are representing districts, is that we also want principals to sign up to be able to receive these inbound connections from teachers. So we'll also provide in the chat the sign up for principals to leverage this platform to get teacher resumes in their queue each week. Principals can come to this page and we'll share the link. They can enter their basic information about which school they represent and what they're hiring for, and this will enable them to receive these connections from candidates. And through the partnership with TDOE, this is a free resource for teachers, and principals can also sign up for free to receive these inbound connections from teachers who may be interested in their school. So that's all I've got to share with you as far as the job board resource. We hope that you all will encourage your students to take advantage of it. Does anyone have any questions about the job board?
That's good.
Wonderful.
That's good to know, Lauren and Krista. If you have any time to connect with students, I'll keep that in mind. If I have like a time during before like our professional development kicks off, even if it's just 5-10 minutes, it helps them. You know, because I mean, not all of them stay around here, right? And so some of it could be new to them. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, happy to do it. And the contact info to reach out about that is there in the chat. So would love to connect.
Great. Thanks, Lauren. Yep. So the information is in the chat. I encourage you to use that to get in touch. Like Lauren said, we are happy to do a demo, and that just helps. You saw how quick and easy it is. So it doesn't have to be a lot of time spent, but it just helps acclimate students to using the resource. You can also just share the link with students directly. They don't need to have a demo. And then if you are part of the district office, you can sign your principals up so that they're able to engage in this service as well. Or you can schedule an informational call if you have either yourself or your principals want to know more. And so I put that information in the chat as well. And then for general questions, just feel free to reach us at connectsupport@hirenimble.com. Really grateful for your time today. Before we close out, any final thoughts or questions? Great. Well, I hope you take advantage of those resources. I look forward to hearing from you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy hiring.